I am Asgardian, but I feel a deep kinship.
Alright, so let's look at the Thor changes. Let's read it out loud. So Thor's getting this is for season 2.5. What are the Thor changes we should expect? Let's read it. Okay, so this is the big one. Adjust hammer throw ability effect to a standard ability. So remove the Thor Force cost and universal cooldown. Adjust the cooldown to 6 seconds. Thor Force gains 1 Thor Force for each hammer throw enemy hit. Decrease the throw damage from 70 to 45, and return damage. Okay, so this is the really important thing to talk about. Hammer toss. So as it stands right now, its move actually does more damage than it looks like. Anyone that tells you this move is bad is a bad Thor player, or is telling you they're misguiding you. Okay, this hammer toss here does almost twice. Like, okay, let's look at the math. It does more damage than his melee attack. Okay, but because now it's doing the same damage as melee attack, the only thing now is that if you alternate between the two, then you should be able to get Thor Force back quickly. That sounds good. Okay. My thing is though, this should not be the main thing. This should not be your main source of damage for Thor. If you use this as your main source of damage, you're under the impression that that this is the only thing that matters. This is not the only thing that matters with Thor. Okay, don't get me wrong, it's very valuable, but that should be like the finishing part of Thor's moveset, because he has skills here that now you have to cycle around to get the most out of his moveset. And if all you're trying to do is get into this, you're not really doing that anymore. Okay? Say Groot walls you off and you're still in an awakening room. Well, boom, you're gonna die soon because now you can't jump out of the way. Theoretically speaking, and typically speaking, if I use Groot, I would look for that too. So instead, this is how you should really fight Groot. You know, kind of weave in. Look at how I could get around his back. I could do this to him. You know, push him. When you're in awakening room throwing lightning, you can't do that. Okay. So I think the one thing that I want to see that could be explored is the potential of a new combo with maybe his melee attack, hammer toss, to strike. Okay, and then you cycle. So you're cycling between 3 moves. You're cycling between your hammer toss and I call it mighty strike. It's called lightning surge though. Pushing them around. Okay. All the while you have awakening rune and you're doing all that together. Okay. So I think it's easy to think that it's a nerf, or okay, its intent is a buff, but it looks like a nerf. I think that's the best way I could put it. So this means now though you really need to land your hammer toss shot, because like I just think the reward for it needs to be boosted. I don't like that its damage got reduced. It's literally the same damage as this. Only thing now is that because it has its own cooldown of 6 seconds, that makes it more important to getting access to a Thor Force. That's essentially it. In the grand scheme of things, it is good because, you know, don't get me wrong, getting to here is still important, but this should never be the first thing you do with Thor. Okay, that's very misleading. So I think that's the biggest thing most of the Thor mains who are influencers are talking about, and I have to agree with them on some extent. Like, I'm not saying it's all bad, because like if they made these changes for him, it's because I feel like, you know, maybe unlike some of the other tanks in this game, I think he actually has great DPS potential. With that awakening rune, he is doing more damage in a burst of time better than most of these other tanks. Where other tanks are intended to survive, he's actually intended to. I feel like he's a. I now call him a DPS tank because he kind of is. You know, so where he's lacking in the defensive departments of keeping himself alive and shielding, he makes up for in his quick burst damage, which is fine. You know, that is his identity, and some people would argue that that's kind of a problem because if you're trying to learn how to tank, you can't really do that properly with Thor. So, all in all, if you liked Hammer Toss, like using it like this, then yeah, this is actually where it's taking the biggest hit because it does a lot of damage. 70 damage, that's almost 2 of these, okay? So now it's literally going to do the same damage as Hammer Toss. Or 70, Mjolnir Bash. So, you have to be more flexible with how you're going to approach. You have to use this move more. And on, say, targets like Groot and Thing, who are, you already know they're not very mobile, but you want to try to dish out as much damage on them, you have to still be careful to not overextend yourself with the Awakening Rune, okay? You're still going to have to be safe. You're going to get used to doing that. So, but what now I want to see is there an animation cancel with this move from Mighty Strike? Because if there is, then okay, now we're in business. But you're still incentivized to want to go into Awakening Rune and throw Lightning. Okay? So, as much as I don't like relying on Awakening Rune for Thor's damage, you're gonna have to. So, but yeah, they didn't change anything about his ult, so you can't rely on solo ulting this thing very often. Make sure you coordinate, okay? Don't let anyone tell you this ult is bad, okay? But we'll see how the Thor changes pan out. If you're truly dedicated to Thor, and you know that he's not a defensive tank, you'll be okay because now you can play around with his kit just a little bit differently now. So that's my take on it. I feel like it's a buff that's kind of being seen as a nerf, but I think if you play around it, it should be fine in the end. So let's hope it works out. Okay, good. Anyways, yeah. What other commentary do I have on the tanks? I think one thing that was mentioned was, I think if they really want to center things around Thor, like they should consider some changes for Thor's Thor Force. I think the 10 damage you take for escaping it, that's pretty minimal for, like, it should, maybe, if, I would be okay if there was some sort of, like, defensive element to it, or a bonus element, other than slowing down and restoring Thor Force. Because it has a 12-second cooldown. Thor's entire moveset is very dependent on the amount of Thor Force you have, which is fine. It's just, I feel like they need to make some adjustments to this move, and now make that, like, I think that's actually the most important Thor move aside from everything else. Because oftentimes, if you ever see when I play, what I'll do is focus the target and use Lightning Round, and then boom. Now, if they try to escape it, then they get damaged more. There is another damage route that I saw a few days ago, where if you Lightning Round them, aim upwards, it'll take them out of the Lightning Round, okay? Get your damage in, and then you can get more hits. Okay, so you Lightning Round them, do this, take them out, they skip it again. So you can get a lot of burst damage if you take them upwards out of the Lightning Round, and then they go back in, and then you take them back out. So I think if the developers really want to make Thor stronger than any of his current states, they need to do something about Lightning Round, because I think that is the most important Thor attack. Not the Hammer Toss, not the Awakening Rune that I always shame people for using improperly. It's Lightning Round. So hopefully when they get around to, like, focusing on, okay, Thor's not getting used very much, we need to focus on giving this move its own unique traits, or like a very good reward for using it. Because it only has a 12-second cooldown, okay? 12-second cooldown means this is an important move, but they don't want you to use it all the time. Like Hulk's shield, for example, that used to be a 12-second cooldown. Now it's only 10. But also, look, Hulk gets banned a lot. So you want the move to be good, good enough so that way it's gonna have its shining moments, but you also don't want it to be so good that the character is so worth banning. You know, think about that. If there were some other changes, I would think if they really want to make this move good, I think they should add some sort of way, like during the initial hits in that cylinder, they should make it so that either the more enemies that are grouped up, the more damage it does. That would increase its use as like get them all trapped in here. You know, good use lightning realm to try to make them want to escape, so they're slowed down and they have to take the full damage. But the ult on its own usually doesn't do very much, and that's why people kind of just like they don't even bother with it being a presence. So if they want to add some utility to Thor's kit, they need to do something about his ult as well. Because as it is right now, the best way, in my opinion, to use it is to get up high and out of danger. Because that damage doesn't change whether you're low ceiling or well above them. So you want to try to hide the fact that you're using it by getting above them. That's how I do it. You could try the low ceiling technique, but it also makes Thor more vulnerable to damage. So, alright. But as a Thor enthusiast, I do hope they address some of his other moves differently. I don't think this thing needed a damage nerf. If they want to make it important, they should have kept the damage, or maybe improve the damage, or give it headshot potential. If you're gonna eat this hammer to the face, I'm pretty sure it wouldn't just do 40 damage. I'm pretty sure. You ever see the scene in Thor where he just puts his hand out like this? He extends his hand out like this, and then like you have to imagine what is all getting in the way of that hammer on its travel all the way to him so he could fight Hulk. Alright? It wouldn't just do 40 damage. I'm pretty sure it would like put holes through people and walls. So please consider the damage. I don't think this hammer attack should not be the same as this little mash, okay? It should be worth more.